name is Ruckus. I'm 10-8. I'm gonna have a little conversation with a friend of mine, the Prof. Hope you enjoy it. Hey, what's going on? So let me check, make sure there's no lag. Everything sounds good. See, 1, 2, 1, 2, cheese 4. All right, and everything should be good. Okay, let's get rid of that. Okay, welcome aboard. Anybody who's watching, anybody who's not watching, gonna watch the rerun, welcome aboard as well. Hope you guys had a good weekend. I certainly did. I didn't even watch the whole game last night. I fell asleep at like halftime. Is Rihanna pregnant? Did I miss something? I'll tell you what, she's got balls. She's not afraid of heights, that's for sure. My goodness. But I'm gonna bring on my buddy. He's a PhD. He's a physicist. This guy's really smart. And him and I rarely agree on anything, to be honest with you. Rarely. But I don't think we've argued once. Not once. Hi, Tina. Thank you for helping me out. I appreciate that. But let me go ahead and bring him on. Let's get this show on the road. I'm gonna have to I'll be able to hear him just fine, so I don't need to do anything, actually. So let's get him in here. There we go. See what I'm saying? PhD meets GED. I'm not kidding you. I'm dumb as a box of rocks. Watching. Anybody who's not watching.
Hello.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, George.
How are you?
Good.
Hanging in there?
Hanging in there.
Okay. Can now if you're watching this, Prof, you need to put on some headphones or turn down the volume or what have you. Hey, Jinx, how are you? Thanks for joining and saying y'all, just to remind me. You know, I really lost my accent. My accent used to be really, really bad. I mean, I asked my wife, I call my friends and talk to them, and I can't understand what they're saying. I asked my wife, did I sound that stupid? And she's like, oh, yeah. yes, you did. Yes, you did. But hey, after we hung up, we talked a little while ago. But I was thinking about that, what we were talking about, the Chinese balloon and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, so what if if those are weather balloons? You don't think it's a little sketchy that 3 or 4 of them, 5, however many there was, come skating into our airspace?
Well, I think it's sketchy, but I think I could see it happening with the jet stream and the, kind of a lot going on in the atmosphere. It's powerful winds. I could see it happening, but I don't think it's okay.
Right. Well, I wonder how many of our kind of stuff have gone into their airspace.
Right. That all of that seems, how do you control balloons carried by the wind? I mean, seems a little, iffy.
From what I've heard, and I certainly haven't verified any of this, but from what I heard, that it had some kind of like propellers or something on it that could actually steer it. that they could control somewhat.
I think that's true that they're somewhat.
Yeah, I think the jet stream would probably have more control over the flight than any size prop. Those balloons are pretty big. But at first I thought they were saying that the balloons were the size of a couple school buses. No, they were talking about the size of the equipment hanging off the bottom of it. That's pretty damn big. That's a lot of shit. Hey,
That's
Tina, is there any lag or anything? Is is my voice lining up? Last time it wasn't, man. That shit pisses me off. Pissed me off something horrible. But dude,
right? This time of year, it's the time of year that Arctic air pushes down into the continental U.S. That's why we have winter. So it just lines up perfectly with the scenario that the ship could be blown over, caught up in that from any sort of northeast, or that would be the northeastern continents, anything from Eastern Russia and Asia, Eastern Asia, any of that I could see getting caught up and coming this way, but I still don't think it's okay at all.
Right. No, well, dude, I mean, it's like I said, it's sketchy. It's very sketchy. But I mean, what are you going to do? There is absolutely nothing that you and I could do to hinder or help whatever's going on with that. Oh, I see the baby's awake. How's he doing?
Oh yeah, he's excited.
Is he? What's going on?
His favorite cartoon now is on, and he gets into that. It's funny when I put him to bed. Lately when I put him to bed at night, he says, "I'll see you in the morning when we watch," and then he says what he's going to want to watch in the morning. So,
so he's making sure that you know what you're going to watch in the morning.
At bedtime, he's like, "I'll see you in the morning when we watch Bumble Gnomes."
That's cute as hell, man. Dude, listen, don't blink. He'll be asking for the car keys before you know it.
Yeah, and wrecking it.
Yeah, well, you've already been there, so you know. How quick it goes. But if you get, I'm not buying it. Like I said, China, they're always up to something. You know what I mean? And they're not stupid. But you have to weigh, what do they have to gain from that? Do you think that they gained any kind of information that they didn't already have? I don't think so. I mean, you can pretty much look at Google Earth and get the same shit that they got flying over in a balloon, right?
Well, they could literally intercept the wireless data transmissions better, but
okay.
There's no innocent parties in my mind. Everyone's war posturing, and it's not fun to see.
No, it's not. But that's been going on forever, dude. I mean, when I was in the Air Force, I built bombs for a living. I was an ammo troop. So we were a little bit more in tune. I had a top secret clearance. So we'd get briefed all the time. We had to. We had to. So, hey, Pam, how are you? Now, are you watching this as well, Prof?
Yeah, I clicked on it, but I don't know what the deal is. All I'm seeing is a lag or slow motion. I'm not, maybe everyone else could say how it's sounding and looking, but I'm seeing like a slow motion lagging look.
Well, yeah, it's going to be like that because it's a little behind what you're hearing now on the phone. But I just want to know if you can see the chat. If somebody asks you something in chat. If not, I'll just pass it on to you. I'll just ask you if somebody asks something in chat. Now, like I said, I did like a little, it is lagging. Son of a bitch. Let me see here. And I'm not going to blame them. I'm not, but my grandkids were over this weekend. I actually let them use this computer so that they could play their games. But,
Are you wireless or are you plugged into the Ethernet or something.
No,
How do you,
I'm wireless, dude. Yeah, I'm not into the Ethernet or anything. But okay, they said it's glitching too. I wonder what's going on. It's got to be on my end. It's got to be the computer. But we'll just press on. We'll press on through this. It's saying that I've had a couple drops. So let me see. Let me see if I can just adjust something here real quick, and I can still talk to you at the same time. I look stupid from far away, but I'm actually pretty smart. Not as smart as you are by any stretch, but I'm pretty smart. Let me see. We just bring back the video bit rate down a little bit and see if that helps. That should help, wouldn't you think?
yeah, I don't know if it could even be YouTube.
No, I mean this just been acting up for the last couple of lives. I'll get it figured out, but I just hate it when when it happens when we go live and then all of a sudden it gets jacked up. That pisses me off. But what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? The sound is fine. It's just the screen keeps freezing. Well, that's good. You get to see me frozen. I'll have to make sure that I smile a lot. Yeah, I just brought the bit rate down, so I think that did it. Is it still jacked up on your end there, Prof?
Maybe it's clearing up.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah.
All right, right on. So it's just the bit rate. The bit rate. You know why that happened, right? Because I'm stupid. That's why. Because I have no idea what I'm doing. But that's okay. We're back. We're back on track now. All right. So this shit with China, right? We're talking about this shit with China. I was saying that them assholes, they went and made an island in international waters and international airspace and claimed it as their own, and they're protecting it. I mean, any ships or planes that come near it, they contact them and tell them if they come any closer, they'll get shot down or sunk. That's bullshit. So we know that China is shady as fuck. They'll do whatever they want. Yes, LV, thank you. Today is 6 years anniversary of Libby and Abby's passing. And, I talked to my wife about it earlier, and it is so sad. It's just 6 years. 6 years. Now, we're going to have some action here pretty soon. Things are going to pick up. But, man, the girls will be what, 21, 22 now? Whole lifetime they could have lived. I mean, think of when you were 14 until you were 20, 21,
I bet both of those girls would have been smart girls, professionals. I just have that. They both seem like they would have become smart college girls, kind of thing.
Yeah, they were no dummies, that's for sure. But Pam, they just kept adding earth and trash and whatnot and cement or whatever they did, and just kept piling it up and made an island and put an airstrip and a military base on it. That's the only purpose of that island, is an airstrip and a military base. That was a couple of years ago. Well, yeah, it is international waters and under international law, but they don't care. They don't give a shit. It's right outside of their waters, so they just claimed it as their own. I mean, they're just doing it. So, yeah, I've been Jinx. I've been looking at Flora too. Are you familiar with Flora, Prof? The Flora fires.
Yeah, I think as much as anyone.
Okay.
They sure are that whole thing is sure undersold if you compare the two. Not that it's fair to compare, but there is a lot of heartache on the side of, why don't we see equal amount of focus on that? Like I just yesterday I went diving into the ISP website,
Mhm.
just to see. I wanted to go in there and collect every solid piece of data, like press releases, videos, anything the ISP legitimately put out through their own channels. And the first thing you see when you click on the ISP website is a big Delphi poster flyer. You know, like you go click on it right now, you're gonna see the two girls' faces and the bridge guy photo. It's all still up there, like it's the day after the bodies were found. You know,
And Flora's kind of in the background.
you don't see Flora at all.
Yeah,
No.
I just watched that the dash cam video. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I watched it.
Yeah, dude, it's heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking. I was thinking, where's the fucking sense of urgency to get those kids out? Like, it seems like they were there as the fire was just getting going, and you know it hadn't even engulfed the whole downstairs yet from the video I saw, and I'm thinking, damn, you know, those guys are all wrapped up in fire protection suits. Seems like they could have got in there before it got fully involved, but you know,
Well, they
never
had
would
to
I
go
want
in
to
and rescue Officer, I think it was Yoder, was his name, or Yoker? They had to rescue him and the girls. They got the girls out before the house was totally engulfed, but they didn't make it. But I'm not really
Yeah.
familiar. I haven't really. I'm not well versed on the Flora thing. I know that it's an arson, that it was set, and it started at the back of the house and it worked its way to the front. But you know, that's all I knew. But I'm gonna get involved with it now. But you know, and I'm not afraid to say this whatsoever. But I'm positive that it took the back burner because these are 4 black girls. That's why.
Yeah, I'm
We
sure.
had 2 white girls, yeah, in Delphi, and they're
It's
both.
also a different, not to downplay the murder, and even if it's as a secondary effect of your criminal actions, murder is murder, especially of kids.
Yes. Yes.
But like, because the Abby and Libby were more, it's more of a severe. It appears more severe because of all the circumstances, whereas an arson fire, it's kind of more mundane, maybe. I don't know. So it's kind of like the two compounded, the racism, and then the fact that it's arson deaths and not really like murders with knives and guns and of 2 girls at a park. So I can see why, but arson. You know, I just learned yesterday that, you know, I think Garrett Kurtz was a victim of arson when he was in jail. And so he's in jail, and someone who was mad at him for ratting, who's also now in jail, he went and burned his house down with some gasoline. You know, and he got caught.
Yeah. Well, I just it pisses me off. I mean, we're talking about 4 children here, you know. But you know, as soon as I saw that, right, and as soon as I looked into it even a little bit, I seen, you know, this happened like what, a month, 2 months before the Delphi murders, so it was like right there, and there was it wasn't all over the news and everything like that. So I was like, well, you know, how could this be? Well, then I find out, I look and I see not only are these little beautiful girls black, but they all have different last names. And I know that people start judging because of that. I've seen it. I saw it my whole career in law enforcement. Shit, I've seen it with law enforcement, judging people and stereotyping and profiling and all that. And it's bullshit. It's total bullshit. But there needs to be some more light shed on the Flora fires. I don't think they're connected at all. But you know, it's crazy. What's up, kid? I wouldn't put much weight on dogs hitting for an accelerant, but the lab test came back negative. Oh, I didn't know that. I'm gonna check into it though, because I wanna. It's intriguing to me now, just because of that whole thing. I think it's a crock of shit. to be honest with you. A life is a life, and those are four precious little girls that died for what? Now, if there's some speculation as to whether or not it was arson or not, I haven't really looked into that, so I don't have an opinion on that yet. But you know I will, dude. You know I'll have an opinion on that, and it probably won't be the same as yours if I had to guess.
Hardly ever.
No, not at all. But guys, the prof has he has a Discord channel as well, so I'm going to put that information up before the end of this chat. Now, let's talk about the Delphi case for a second, right? You and I have talked about this a lot, and we've gone round and round about it. Now, Richard Allen, do you think he's bridge guy, first of all?
Well, that's difficult. I think if you take the most recent documents from law enforcement or prosecutors, you would infer pretty clearly that they infer in that document that he is the guy captured in that video.
There's a lot of inference going on.
It's also not a video. It's, I want to, even law enforcement, ISP states that it's a video. They say the video. But I think that's sort of a terminology thing. It's a series of stills with gaps in them. And that's not technically a video. It's a series of stills stitched together to have the appearance of a video. Now, I would wonder, why not just leave the contiguous 3 seconds or whatever it's going to be of, if that's all they're going to put out, why?
Dude, you can't use words like contiguous with me. Now I have to go look that up.
Well, it's why slice frames from it? If it's a 3 second clip, what would be the point of only having a few stills with a few gaps in between? That part mystifies me. It's like,
what would they have to gain from that, Prof? What would they have to gain from manipulating that? Because you're alluding to something much bigger now.
I'm not saying it's nefarious. I'm just calling it what it is. Call a spade, okay? It's a series of stills stitched together to show the motion of his walking. But obviously they have a reason that they chose to do it that way. I could understand the splicing the voiceover, because if the voiceover occurs later, they didn't want to show later, then you could take the voiceover and splice it over the motion, and that makes sense. But to me, the part that it's not legitimately a video from start to finish. So I would wonder, there obviously is a reason that they chose to release it in that way. Now, what's the reason? Who knows? They know.
So you think that she took 3 stills right in a row, and that's what they made appear to look like a video?
No. It could be either or. It could be that she was taking stills, because you know how on the iPhone you could do the burst mode and capture 60 stills, so it's not a true video. It's a bunch of stills that it goes click, 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 click. It could be a burst of photos that they stitch together to have the appearance of a video, or it could have been a video that they then took and extracted particular stills from and then stitched those stills together. But either way, it's one or the other, because it is a series of stills.
Well, that's what every movie is. That's what every video is.
Right, but they're not contiguous, meaning that they're not one after the other. They're gaps. That's why there's a jerking motion.
I knew what that meant, dude. I was fucking with you.
There's that jerking motion.
You condescending fuck.
Thanks.
But here's my thing. What's the end game? What would law enforcement have to gain from doing that?
I don't know. That's the question.
Well, see, then you just point out problems. You're not offering any solutions. You
No,
turn into Ruckus. That's
I'm
my
pointing out.
job.
I like the facts. The cold-hearted facts. It's a series of stills put together to form a motion. So that's just a factoid.
Right.
Whatever the reason is, only detectives know. We don't know that.
Now, what would pacify your interest in that? What would make you say, okay, yeah, I believe that was a video that she took, and there's nothing sketchy about it, and they released it for a reason, because that's what I believe. They did it like they did it for a reason. I mean, the audio doesn't match up. He obviously didn't say that during the video portion of that clip. He said it
Right.
once he got much closer to them. But I can understand why they would do that, just coming from a law enforcement perspective, that you don't want to release anything that you don't have to. Do you follow?
Exactly.
Because people will run with it. Not that they give a fuck if people run with it. And everybody needs to understand that. Law enforcement is not losing any sleep because we're all pissed off because they're not releasing anything and because they're not clarifying things to us. They're not losing any sleep. They don't give a shit. When they go on press conferences and stuff like that and they apologize and all that, they're lying. They don't care. They're worried about the investigation. They're trying to get to the bottom of this,
Period. It's
right.
My feeling is they're so much further ahead than any of us ignoramuses. We don't know shit.
Dude, you are not an ignoramus.
They know law enforcement has 100 times more than we could ever hope to even gather. So they know what they're doing. I just would say, what I stick with in my mind, I like to hold on to the anchor of what can I say is a fact about this point. And then, anything else, I'll wildly speculate. But, whatever I'm going to call a fact, I want to be thoroughly convinced is a fact. And for me, that bridge guy video, quote unquote, it's, the fact is, it is a series of still images, whether taken as stills or extracted from a video. It's a series of stills. And so calling it the bridge guy video, that in of itself is a little misleading.
I agree.
It's a bridge guy series of stills.
But it's taken from a video. I think that's what they were trying to get across.
Possibly. Yeah. Either or. Possibly from a video. And to me, that point, it doesn't matter much. It's just an observation of what it is.
Now, they could have just one still picture, and manipulate it to make it appear that it was moving and make it that good where you wouldn't really catch it unless you're a professional, at using Photoshop and stuff.
A lot of analysis by amateurs that make it seem like there is some Photoshoppery in all of that stuff. But, I'm not an expert in that field, but I would say that there's some good expert opinion that make it seem like it's potential for some of that. But
now, is this possible? Is this even possible in your mind? That yes, law enforcement did manipulate that video, right? But their end game to that, the reason they did that was to make it more clear, to make it better, not to manipulate it to fool people. Is that possible, do you think?
Yeah, there's all kind of possibles. That's one of them.
Okay. You didn't have to throw that all kinds.
I look at it, there could be a forensic reason. Let's say this. You can take, if someone else wants to forensically analyze a 5-second clip of video from a social media service provider, you could potentially take, it's just like a piece of music, which I'm familiar with from the copyright standpoint. You can take that 3-second clip of music, put it into a forensic analyzer and database and match it up to what it came from. So it could have been that it's legitimately a video and they did want to release a particular portion of it, which was 3 or 4 seconds long or whatever. But maybe they were afraid that if we released the legitimate clip, then someone else could forensically analyze the data in that clip and identify the source of the video. So maybe to keep the source of the video confidential and within the investigation, they could have spliced from the video.
Oh, there's no doubt that they took a video of that video just for that reason. So you can't get any metadata off of it that they don't want you getting.
So that's exactly what I'm saying. That could be the reason, but it's all speculation because we don't know the reason. But I still want to call it what it is, just to be clear.
Right. All right. Well, let's roll back a little bit, and let me ask you again: do you think that's Bridge Guy? Do you think that that's Richard Allen?
I think I have no way of knowing, but I think that the LE has insinuated, or they seem to have presented to the judge that
yeah, but I know you, dude. LE's inference means zero to you. Zero.
Well, I think they knew they would have to release that document to the public.
Right.
I think that the end game was they know that whatever's in that document is going public, and that at most redacting the names of the individuals would be proper. So I think they knew that the most they would get away with, in hedging their bets of disclosing, they're like, look, we know that the most we might be able to redact in the worst case scenario is names. So anything else other than the names we know is going to be open to public scrutiny and may interfere in the future of this investigation.
Right.
So anything in there is meant for public eyes, and maybe the reason that maybe they intend it to you two options. He's Bridge Guy, they know it, and that's why they presented it as such with that wording, or they want to convey that impression that he's Bridge Guy. So either way, I don't know, but personally, I just feel like I don't have any way to determine, other than that. I can't say he's Bridge Guy. I think, I would say, I would love him to say, yeah, I'm Bridge Guy. If he's already admitted to being there, the date and time in those clothes, then what harm is there to say, yeah, well,
but did he admit to that?
Not yet, but
that's we're going through that right now as well. Who's this conservation officer? And I thought about that since I heard of it at first. And I'm pro law enforcement, dude. But that's all sketchy as fuck. But hey, listen, Prof, do me a favor. If you're watching this, can you see the chat?
Okay, let me look. Yep, I got it.
Okay, and the reason I'm telling you that is please follow along with the chat and address anybody in chat that you want to. This is not the Ruckus show. You know what I mean? This is you and I talking, and people have questions that they're really they're giving them to you, not to me, to be honest with you. And I don't want to be the go-between. I don't mind you answering what they're talking about.
Oh, let's see. Okay. All right, let me look. Let's see. I'll go from the most recent back if there's something.
Okay, because I'm just here for aesthetic value. I'm here for looks. You're the attraction here as far as what's going on. Now that almost everything that's coming out of your mouth, I'm in disagreement with, but nothing.
That's all.
We can't count anything out at this point, can we, Prof? Nothing. We're talking about these two little girls. I mean, we have to examine every single aspect. Funnier things have happened, Well,
and I won't. We've gone back and forth, but my bottom line is I won't take anything for granted, and 100% only for the two girls. That's my only concern, and I can't put trust or speculation or anything like that into it. But you know what? As I go around and I look at all the YouTube creators.
Yeah, they're creating all right.
The problem is I see the majority just takes everything for granted. And as there's this whole artificial narrative built up on speculating or maybe, I don't know how I would say it. That
they have an agenda
that's built up about what took place and what is and it's almost like all the information has gone into this one narrative and we're trying to string it together. But I take it opposite. I reverse engineer. And that's how I do in my private life, my professional life, and here, where I'm looking at it for the girls only to reverse engineer. And I start with the anchors of fact. And the fact can't be from a narrative or from
speculation,
supposing what something is. Yeah, speculating. So I know we're in an active investigation, which means anything law enforcement puts out, there's an agenda behind it, which is the investigation. So even what law enforcement releases, you can only look at it as a release from law enforcement, not necessarily as a cold-hearted fact. But I give that shit way more weight than any of the wild speculation. So that's why a sort of a minimalist approach to the facts, but I'm willing to then take those things and that's why I form my own opinion, which is different than yours. But I never mind being different because that's the best way a lot of time to solve through conundrums is you put two opposing points together or points of view, and then you kind of weigh them out and see where can we meet. So like as Ruckus and as Prof, where can we meet and say, look, we both feel very differently, but what can we both agree on is like some landmarks that we can say, yeah, this is a lot of validity to this point.
We've been working that way. You know why? Because we're both exercising critical thinking. We're keeping an open mind and we're looking at every angle. I'll never say that you're wrong. I'll say that I don't agree with that. But shit, you've changed my mind on a few things. And I'm sure I've impacted your view on a few things. But with critical thinking, we keep an open mind and we discuss things. We don't argue. In a battle of wits, dude, I'm unarmed when it comes to you. I mean, I have the IQ of a retarded clam, but I'm smart enough to realize that, so I have a different strategy when I deal with you. I try to use humor to diffuse things rather than intelligence, But I think, and I'm just being totally upfront and honest here. That video, that bridge guy that we all know as Bridge Guy, that is Richard Allen. That is Richard Allen. He participated in this to the point where he is the one that abducted the girls from the end of the bridge. And by abducted, he could have used whatever implied or actual force to get the girls to comply with his wishes. But that's the tip of the iceberg. That's the tip of the iceberg.
Well, here's where I stand on that.
Okay.
I think, you asked me, is Richard Allen, is that what we first hit on? Is he Bridge Guy? Was that your question?
Yeah, I asked you if you thought that was Bridge Guy. I already know my answer. Yeah, he is Bridge Guy. There's no doubt about it.
So I would say this. Richard Allen could or could not be Bridge Guy. That's my point.
You suck. Okay, that's so bullshit.
But where I agree to meet in the middle, where I agree to meet you on that point is law enforcement in the court of law has inferred that he's Bridge Guy and he was the one captured in the Bridge Guy video. That's what law enforcement says. And because I believe that more than any other wild speculation, I would say that Most likely, yes.
Okay.
He's bridge guy based upon the fact that law enforcement presented that and prosecutors presented it in the court of law, which there are insane consequences for it if that's untrue. So they would be criminal in presenting that to the court as a fact. So, you know, the odds are in the favor that Richard Allen is bridge guy in that bridge guy video, because in the court of law, prosecutor deemed so, and that would be a big error on his part and criminal activity on his part to for that not to be true, you know.
Right. Well, as soon as I saw it, that's what got me into this a couple months ago. You know, I didn't even meet Frank. You know how I met Frank? This came up as an algorithm, and it was to Gray Hughes, his channel. So I watched it, and I was like, wow, this is crazy. They have audio and video of this guy, and they still haven't made an arrest. And the next day I went on back to Gray Hughes' channel, and I disagreed with what he said. He ended up chastising me on air, telling me that I was an idiot, and he booted me. So I was like, well, what a piece of shit he is. I know he wouldn't do that to my face, you know? So I went and searched Delphi, and that's how I found Unresolved Crimes. That's how I found Frank to start with. And so that's what got me into this. Not because law enforcement said this or said that. I was kind of, you know, coming from law enforcement. I was like, how the hell do they have this piece of information? You know, when I was on active duty, you know, if we have video and audio of somebody and 5 years later there was no arrest made, and I certainly didn't work in a county with a small town like Carroll County and Delphi, I was floored. I was like, how is this, you know, happening? You know, give your son a high five for me. Tell him I said hello.
I am. He came to say hi. Hey, bud.
Yeah. That's what he's going to start telling you when he goes to bed. All right, I'll see you in the morning when we get up and watch Ruckus.
You want to hear something funny? Watch. I'll show him your photo. I mean, your YouTube stream. Watch.
Okay.
Look, bud. It's Ruckus. Say Ruckus.
Ruckus.
That's right.
Yeah, say Ruckus rocks.
Ruckus rocks.
There you go.
He's so cute. He's hilarious, man. You got him playing any instruments or anything yet? Or does he is he musically inclined yet?
He's very interested in playing with keyboards. So I have him a little keyboard, but I ended up giving him one of my actual professional keyboards. I went put in his bedroom because he likes that one better with the drum beats and stuff.
Oh, of course. The weighted keys, all that.
Yeah, so he's got a huge 88 key keyboard on his bedroom floor. He rocks out about 20 minutes, 30 minutes a day. He goes press all the buttons and bangs on the keys. But my philosophy with child creativity is you have to let them go through that phase, because that's how they attach for life. You know, you don't want to regiment it early on.
Right. Hey, Angela, glad you could join us.
For him, it's just a play toy, and he goes and makes drum beats and bangs.
Yeah, but dude, you just don't know. That's the best thing. That's the best thing for him. All right, but yeah, I heard him in the background, so it distracted me. I love that kid. He cracks me up. But now,
yeah,
what you guys need to understand as well is that me and the prof, we talk weekly, usually a couple times a week, and we talk for hours on end and don't agree on anything. and I've never met him. You know, he lives on the other side of the country, but we're very friendly and we get along very well. For two people that have two totally different opinions on this case, it cracks me up. We don't have a lot in common outside of guns and music, you know. But if Richard Allen is not bridge guy, dude, we're back at square one.
Well, I'll even notch it up a notch.
Here we
if
go.
The bridge guy is bullshit in and of itself.
If what?
I mean, if bridge guy video is bullshit,
right,
in and of itself, I mean, we're even beyond starting place. We're at, you know, but that's what I mean about taking everything I was thinking about this morning. There are way more complete douchebags in that area.
Potty mouth. You have a potty mouth. Is your son still there?
Oh, he's in the other room. But
okay.
There's way more of them who know facts of this case than there are of us, guaranteed.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I would be willing to bet. And so, take that as your damn starting place. Like, it only take a couple of those douchebags to come out and give some facts. So it's almost like, yeah, well, I'm saying base the facts on the cold-hearted facts, but then at the same time, it could be a random person on YouTube or Reddit that will come out and make a blurb and say, hey, I know something about this case. These people were involved. They might be 100% correct, but we can't, I have to start someplace. So by latching on any of that, that's a bad place to start. So that's where you and I can agree on we can agree on the facts at a minimum. So,
Yeah.
like even the timeline, what we spoke about before, the timeline bothers me highly.
I don't see how. You tried to explain it to me. Go ahead and explain it again. See if anybody that's listening, I don't know how many people are watching, but see if anybody's picking up what you're putting down, because you had me all kinds of baffled,
Well, I don't know. I don't want to make enemies today, but
why? That you're not making enemies.
We are I think that this is a special anniversary. It's like, it's just coincidental for me that we're doing this today, because allegedly this is the day that they were potentially killed. But that's kind of ties into that timeline problem, in that I think we got a way larger timeline or time frame that any of this could have taken place that ended in the girls being dead. And that's bothersome, because taking for granted a particular timeline based on what investigators released and what family members said, I can't even do that. I don't do it. Like I said, it's that we almost have to go to people who would have no incentive to give a false timeline. What's the furthest back that we can say those girls were alive, known to be alive, seen alive, when and where? And
now, taking the video and photos that Libby took, you talking about the last time somebody had eyes on them being alive? Is that what you're talking about? Because that would have to be Kelsey.
Well, and like I said, we can't even. I won't even take Kelsey's version of the timeline as fact, because there could potentially be hangups there. But I would say, in the days before, civilians or anyone outside of the direct people involved had eyes on those girls. But for me, that's where the timeline starts.
Yeah, it was Mike and it was the Patties, right?
Well,
they were at their house.
I can't start there.
Why?
I gotta go before that. Like, no one involved.
Well,
so
okay.
Family's too close. I want an outside party's witness of those girls alive. That's my starting place for a timeline. And unfortunately, it's not the 13th. It's prior. So my timeline's pretty wide. It's a couple days prior to noon on the 14th. That's my timeline. That's a lot of time for a lot of shit to happen.
Yeah, and dude, and there's nothing wrong with having that kind of thought as far as the timeline goes. I'm not against that whatsoever. But you have to put some, family are people as well. Okay, human nature is human nature, period. So, if the family says, yeah, they were here, they were doing this and that, and all of the family parrots that same information, I mean, you can't honestly, you can't make me believe that the Patties huddled up to get this, nail down this story. I just can't see that.
Well, I'm not trying to, but as an investigator, I would say, how would you prove that's a fact? You know,
How would you prove? So you're talking about an outsider seeing them. How do you prove that's a fact? I mean, Richard Allen's an outsider. Maybe he saw them on the 12th.
well, I mean, no, I mean, an outside, someone who would have nothing to gain or lose from an investigation. Just say who are outside witnesses removed from this case that can confirm, you know.
And who
and
they
then-
found? Who they found that can confirm
I don't
the
know.
last time? Right.
I
You
don't
know
know.
what? You know why? Because that makes zero sense. That's why. Otherwise, we would know already.
No, it makes a lot of sense. I think it's because if you, all right, if, okay,
Yeah.
okay, do family members ever have some involvement in crimes against other family members? Yes, fact. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Don't answer
if-
your own question. Yeah, of course.
Okay, so if, then that means if you're thoroughly investigating, you have to go beyond that. You have to go to,
Okay. And
to
do
a wider
total
net.
strangers commit crimes against other total strangers?
most of the time, yeah.
Right.
Well,
So
some
your
of the
theory
time.
sucks. Your theory's out the window saying that, well, it has to be somebody not connected to the family. They're just as liable to do shit as anybody. And as far as if goes, you know, if worms had machine guns, birds wouldn't fuck with them. I mean, law enforcement doesn't use if. You know, if my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle. You know, you can't use if because now you're just saying that, well, maybe. You know, you have to find out facts. You have to go with something solid. And you're just leaving too much there saying, well, we should go back to the last time that somebody that's not involved with the case saw
Well-
these people. And we haven't heard of anybody in that realm. You know, why law enforcement does not consider that pertinent.
But we're not detectives. You know, the detectives on the case, I would be certain, have gone back prior to family witnessing. They've gone back past that and said, beyond the patties, who says they confirmed the sighting or the knowledge that the girls were alive and well, and at what point? I'm sure the detectives,
Dude,
if
they
were
don't
doing their
consider
job-
family or outside family. They want to know who saw them, whether it's family or not. It doesn't matter. They don't have a big whiteboard, Prof, with a line down it that says family on one side and non-family on the other side as far as who they
Okay,
talk to.
but Ruckus, how stupid would they be as investigators to take Kelsey's word for, you're going to take the last person?
I did not say to take Kelsey's word. I'm telling you that she was the last one that allegedly saw them.
But they would be stupid if that's what they did. And then the next level of separation, then you are saying would be the parents or the grandparents, the patties.
Mhm.
So now you're going to tell me the parent that they would take their word over Kelsey's?
Now, is that Snapchat? Is that proof of life to you?
No, because that could be also. See,
Fabricated?
the investigators know the nature of that forensics on all of that. We don't.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah, exactly.
So
They know.
whether,
Yeah, they know.
yeah, whether that Snapchat is legitimate or not, or photoshopped or not, all of that shit about the forensic data, they know. So, of course, based on what they know from that, then they would know about this and that. But we don't have any knowledge of that whatsoever. We're just using the community of people interested in it outside the investigation to look at that stuff and say, does that stuff gel with what makes sense and blah, blah, blah. So most people believe that stuff to be legitimate, you know, and where I go is I can't say it's a fact. What I can say the fact is it's potential that it's not legitimate, but it's more likely that it is legitimate, especially that law enforcement prosecutors have referenced it, you know. So yeah.
That
with you on
carries
that,
weight to
I would-
me. You know that. That carries weight.
Yeah. So 90% chance that that's legitimate because prosecutors said so in the court system, and they're prone to perjury charges if it's not. So, like you know, I take most of the legit info I take as it must be solid, you know, but I still give that inkling of a chance that it could all be convoluted, you know.
But that's
so I don't
because
know
you're
about,
cerebral, dude. That's because you know you think everything out. I mean, you're a physicist. You know, you might as well live in Missouri. Show me. You gotta prove things or disprove them, and that's one thing that I really do like about you, and I enjoy talking with you because of that. But your time frame, just to get back to nail down, you know what we're talking about. Your time frame goes back days before the 13th. Your time frame of this crime goes back days before the 13th. We've talked about this before. I think the first time you told me that you believed that the time frame should have started when she was playing catch with her granddad. But he's also a family member, so he shouldn't count.
Yeah, but my gut, that's what my gut, you know, that's where we're going into my opinion. You know, my gut feeling says that I feel okay about taking the softball pitching with the grandpa.
And that was Abby.
Yeah, that's a good land a land post. You know, I look at that and say, well, you know, yeah, I believe that all happened the way he said, and I think that even though he's not a complete outsider, I think that's the first landmark that I can really, in my gut, I feel like, yeah, well, that's a good starting place. You know, I literally, legitimately believe that he pitched softball with Abby, and the way he said he did, and you know, as much of an opinion as it is, that's kind of the starting place. You know, I didn't really want to say it, but that's the starting place of my time.
Dude, you can say whatever you want with me. You know that. You know that.
That's my starting place, and my finish place is when the announcement was made by law enforcement that the girls were found.
Okay. They were very careful with that, too. They announced that they found some bodies, but wouldn't even say they were the girls at first. You know, listen, as a law enforcement point of view, okay, you don't, and you mentioned, you know, if you were a detective and stuff like that, anybody can be a detective. It's training. It's training. You learn things from hundreds of thousands of law enforcement officers that have preceded you. That's how they get law enforcement training. That's how they get the Reed technique for investigations and interrogations and the peace technique and all that stuff. You'd be very good at it, dude, because you're inquisitive, you know, but you know what? Honestly, Prof, it would drive you nuts. You'd quit that job. It would drive you nuts because it's, you're talking about human nature. You're not talking about shit that you can nail down. You know, facts.
But you know what else? I think the thing that I've learned from the most, other than my own endeavors, is I think I've watched every first 48 episode that ever aired. So
those are pretty good.
I feel that that's good detective training in a way. It's not training, but you know, you're seeing the hands-on. And
yeah, and those poor people, dude. I have a lot of friends that were homicide detectives, and they have sleep deprivation, man. They don't sleep for days on end whenever there's a new homicide, because that whole show, the first 48 means the first 48 hours. If you don't have a suspect, 9 times out of 10 it goes unsolved. You know, it's very seldom if you don't find out a lot of information in the first 48 hours. It's very seldom that you have anything. That's why this case is so intriguing to me, because not only did they have information, they had a fucking video and audio of this piece of shit. You know what I mean? I couldn't believe that, you know? But all right, so let's take it from there, Prof. And you don't have to nail down the exact date, okay? But just say a few days before the 13th. Take it from there. What do you think happened from there? What brought us to the point of them announcing that the girls had been found and that it was indeed Libby and Abby's bodies that they found there? Take us from there, from the couple days prior to up until that. And give me the Reader's Digest version. You don't have to get deep into it or anything.
Well, I don't know. I think that see the first responder and police dispatch was FOIA'd and released, and so it's difficult because there's a potential that some of that could have been theater, but I don't think really. But everyone on that system would know that data is being recorded. So it's just like a body cam. You know what's being recorded on that body cam. You know what's being recorded on that dispatch radio transmission. So
Sure.
The ending place that I accept tentatively is all of that radio traffic. So I go from when did Grandpa throw the ball with Abby to when was that radio traffic and what was the radio traffic? And I listened to it all thoroughly, a number of times from a number of different attitude stances. But so I think that's
Hang on one second.
Yeah.
Terry, this is the Prof. He's a buddy of mine. He's a physicist. Him and I don't agree on shit. on anything. Very, very little. Very little. But that's who it is. He's a buddy of mine that I met through YouTube. Somebody was just asking who was speaking, so I was just kind of letting him know.
Yeah.
But go ahead, and like I said, please keep track of the chat, and if there's anything you want to address, because people are specifically talking towards you and agreeing with you, so that tells me that there's a bunch of people in here that I need to change their opinion.
Wow.
I need to pull them over to the dark side.
Well, I need to change their opinion too, because
no, you don't have to. They all agree with you.
No, I don't like the wild speculation. Okay, the wild speculation and the repeating of a convoluted narrative. I don't agree with that either. So that's where there's a meeting place. Yeah, a meeting place for both of our angles is like somewhere in the middle. We can agree on factoids, and that's all I want. I think if people start from the factoids that are pretty immutable, then we can say, hey, yo, good. We can understand these things. We can understand that dispatch, when the girls were allegedly found at that time and date. So we can go from the dispatch as the ending point, and like I say, I bring the timeline a little further from the beginning point. So that's a huge timeline.
You want to go back to the fucking delivery room when they were born, for Christ's sake. That does zero for law enforcement. Going far that back to when, I guess Abby's grandfather's name is Cliff. So, you want to go all the way back to Cliff, and So what about the sleepover, which was the day after she was throwing softballs with Cliff? Do you believe any of those people that she was there or anything like that?
But Cliff actually cries, and Cliff seems like he's transparent, and so that's why my gut says believe Cliff, because he's hurting hard and he's open about it, and I'm comfortable believing that as an anchor point, and also the dispatch as an anchor point. So in between all of that, there's so much. Things can happen in an hour. So you're putting on multiple days. That's a huge time frame, and that only complicates things. It's exponential. It's extremely more complicated of a timeline, in my opinion.
No, dude, I think Cliff is as genuine as you can get. As genuine as you can get. And the fact that Anna stays out of the limelight and stuff, you can tell that that's her dad, because he's the same kind of way.
And she cries too.
Yeah. Now that means, and dude, I hate to sound like a a cold prick. But that means nothing to law enforcement. Zero.
I know.
Zero.
I know that.
Unless it'll help. I know it sounds crazy, but unless it'll help for eliminating somebody from suspicion.
I see Indy Pam there says go back to the 12th. I mean, Indy, that's basically what, that's the gist of it. That's the gist of it, I guess.
Yeah. But I mean, what does that do for you though? Now take it from the 12th. How does this all start?
It starts a timeline. That's all I want is like, well, anything could have happened in that timeline. So then there's other anchors, say we can also establish other anchors of that timeline. Like, for instance, you've covered this extensively and it will continue to, and I am all about it. But how is it that those girls were missed? Or were they missed? So where my speculation leads is that they were found earlier. Okay, we've spoken about this as well.
Mm-hmm.
My speculation is that they were found in the middle of the night, possibly. And law enforcement said, hey, we need daylight before we trample this crime scene anymore. So let's shut down the crime scene for the most part until
set up
daybreak.
A perimeter.
Yep, and then daybreak we can start really looking, and then once they had gone over it really well for several hours in daylight, then we can start making this motion towards disclosing it. So hours and hours later, they can start to disclose to the public that we found something here.
That's very plausible. That I'm agree
cool with
that. That could happen.
Yeah, I'm cool with that because that makes sense too. It doesn't mean anything nefarious on law enforcement's part. I'm not implying that. I'm just saying that.
No, that's good practice.
Another anchor I could say is that would make some sense. Is that the girls were found in the dark? They wanted to have daylight, so that's why the timeline. You can't say the girls were found at 12:30 or whatever, but that's when they were announced. But we could say that the girls were found somewhere between the 13th and 14th, and according to that radio traffic, there was definitely by noon there was like serious shit on the radio. So,
Now, what about the searchers the next morning, and the searcher that says that they found the girls? Is that all staged? And what Kelsey says about somebody finding the sneaker?
Yeah, where did all that shit come from? Right. None of that came from law enforcement.
Right. Well, and here's what I'm saying. In order for that to be true, and I'm not saying it's not at all, Prof. I'm not saying that's not true. It makes sense logistically. I can't understand how they missed the girls. You know that. That drives me fucking nuts. How did they not see the girls that night? But there would have to be a conspiracy to have all this other information and bring all these people into it, and they have never said anything. That's very uncommon. That just doesn't happen.
Well, we can either I back off of it a little more, and I say, in my mind, how many people? Okay, between the time the family says that they realized the girls were missing.
Right.
And went out there. So according to the narrative that most people swallow, that is Derek German. Okay, so from the time supposedly Derek German got there, supposedly, to the time law enforcement.
So you don't believe Derek either. You don't consider that fact.
I'm not.
That he said
I'm not taking it as a fact. No, not at all.
Why not?
I'm saying this.
Why not?
Well, I'll get to it, but I'm saying this. From the time that they realized the girls were missing to the time law enforcement roped off the crime scene, how many searchers were out there? Because I've heard everything from in the 20s to in the hundreds.
Hmm.
So how many individuals were out there? Another thing that Eric
Are you talking
said,
about at the crime scene or just searching in the wooded area? Or
In
the
that
area in general?
the area at the Monon High area, how
Okay.
many people were out there? Now, Eric, earlier in your last talk with him, said that
Eric is awesome too, though. He's a good guy.
he said that on that night of the 13th, he didn't recognize any law enforcement, and if there were any, it was very minimal and in street clothing. So, but he did see plenty of first responders. You know, so I would say,
Well, no,
that's
he
curious.
saw first responder vehicles, which he made it a point to say volunteer firemen, which means those are POVs, privately owned vehicles with lights on them. You know, they have the flashing lights so that they can respond to a fire, but they're in volunteer status. So that's what he said, that there was plenty of volunteer firefighter trucks, vehicles there
Yeah,
with the lights.
And there are the radio transmissions of that were FOIA'd, and I listened to all of those. So for sure, the night of the 13th, there was huge organization going on with emergency services. They were calling them all into the station multiple times to organize them and brief them on the missing girls. And so you would assume that then they left the station and went to the scene. And so that would line up with what Eric was saying, was that he saw a bunch of them out there, but not a big law enforcement presence at all. So
he said he didn't say any officials, none.
But then he said that someone told him to stop, and that someone related that it was from the sheriff's department.
Law enforcement told him to stop. Yes, but he didn't see any officials, he said. None.
Right, but he said as a directive from the sheriff's office. So I believe that that's a landmark, is that there were a lot of emergency responders being potentially coordinated with some authority from a sheriff presence, but not a huge law enforcement presence on the night of the 13th. But like I said, I put that together with, well, how many numbers of individuals were all out there stomping around for, you know, from the afternoon of the 13th to the morning of the 14th.
Right. Is that Ernie and Bert that I hear?
That's what he's got going on. Turn it down, bud. He just came to visit again.
No, that's cool. What's he got, his iPad?
Uh-huh. Sesame Street.
But yeah, I know who Ernie and Bert is. Dude, I saw the very first Sesame Street episode. The very first one, I was in kindergarten. They rolled the TV in and put it on. I saw the very first Sesame Street, if you can believe that. Hey, Lakeside, how are you?
So there's another thing that's coming to my mind I might as well put out there with the same bundle of thoughts, which is that there's a huge conflict in the number of individuals reportedly stated as being at the bridge when the girls were dropped off, allegedly. And that's a conflict, and that's a concern. It's like, how many individuals were actually at that location?
Are you talking about the Mears location where the drop-off was?
And on the bridge, whoever witnessed individuals there.
Okay.
How many individuals do we know were there?
Now, what are you talking about, during the search?
It's any number from like 1 or 2 to fucking 20 or 30. It's insane.
No, I'm asking you. Are you talking about on the 13th? While the girls were there?
At the alleged drop-off of the girls.
Okay.
Yeah, when the girls were supposedly first entered that area. Like, there's such a huge discrepancy in the number of people that are said to have been there at that drop-off time. So that's another question mark. It's like, well, how many searchers, how many people at the drop off. That's some more shit. Just doesn't make sense.
Now, I've heard, I haven't spoken to Kelsey, and I haven't seen anything that makes me say, okay, yeah, I'll accept that. I've heard that she said that there was 15 or 20 teenagers there when she dropped the girls off.
She said a number of numbers.
Well, I don't know what she said or what other people have said that she said. I immediately realized that there was a bunch of shit going on with this case the second that I looked at it and went around to all these channels and creators, looking at these different YouTube creators. So I knew there was a bunch of bullshit. I knew, my spidey sense, my law enforcement sense went off and said, these people are fabricating shit for clickbait, to get views and to be sensationalist and stuff like that. So I never really looked into any of that kind of stuff. And do you know why? Because there's zero impact on the case. Zero. If you think that Kelsey is a total liar and that everything she said is a bunch of bullshit, has zero impact on this case. Zero. And I don't know how. Now, some people will argue with me about that, and they'll say, well, yeah, it does. If Kelsey knows what happened and she was involved, that what she said does not change any facts. Okay? And law enforcement knows the facts during that whole time period. So what she says or does cannot change facts. She can't go back in time and change things. So what actually happened actually happened. Okay, so you'd have, dude, you could have 100 years to try and convince me otherwise. But none of that has any impact on the case itself. None. Zero. She could be a total liar. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Whoever killed the girls still killed the girls. Do you follow me?
Yeah, but I think that, just imagine the potential impact on the number of witnesses and the number of suspects, depending on how many people were there at the time, for instance. So it's like if there were 2 people there witnessed, then you potentially got 2 witnesses, 2 more suspects. If
there was 15 or 20 kids there, then there's 15 or 20 witnesses that they talked to or had to find and
potential suspects. Right. So that does have an impact on the case, but it's we don't know it. That's detectives would hopefully already have all that locked down.
But listen, do we know if law enforcement talked to 15 or 20 teenagers that were at that drop-off point? Do we know that or not?
No, they know.
Okay, of course they do. Of course they do. Okay, so what influence does that have on your opinion of this case? It should be zero. If you say anything but zero, I'm going to question you. Because you haven't even really thought about it. Because it has zero impact on this case, Prof. Do you follow me?
No,
they're important witnesses if they saw the girls get dropped off. Absolutely. But I don't believe there was anybody there. There's really not enough room for 20 vehicles to be there unless it was just a pack of teens hanging around on foot. And I don't see why they would hang around there close to the road. Teenagers want to do shit out of everybody's view, if you follow me, like you and I did when we were teenagers, You want to go someplace and smoke and get a sip off of granddad's whiskey that you stole out of the cupboard and stuff like that. They wouldn't be hanging around near the road unless they were waiting for a ride. But it's still, honestly, you could get yourself caught up and on those little facts in this case that are really bothering people, like the couple arguing under the bridge, whether they exist or not. Who gives a shit? Honestly, who gives a shit? Law enforcement knows. Law enforcement knows, and they would put it out if it was pertinent. But who cares? Flannel shirt guy. Does he exist? I heard at first that there was a woman on the south side of the bridge walking her dog that saw Richard Allen and talked with him. Come to find out, that's bullshit as well. But again, that has zero impact on the case. That puts Richard Allen at the crime scene. But guess what? He did that himself already. So that doesn't really matter. And I'm just telling you, you may or may not understand my way of thinking. I don't know, But I'm here to tell you, if I had my law enforcement buddies here, or if anybody in chat is probably law enforcement, you understand exactly what I'm saying and where I'm going towards. You don't have to tell me that water boils at 212 degrees, dude. It starts bubbling. I know it's boiling. I don't have to be physically out in the rain to know it rained. I can go out afterwards and see the ground's wet, and I'm going to be positive that it rained. So you don't have to know every little detail for it to matter in the case. Now, this is to me. I know that you don't agree with it, and I'm okay with that. I'm perfectly okay with that, because I like the way you think. You're outside the box, and you bring a lot to the table. But I'm telling you that it doesn't matter how many kids were at that drop-off point. Zero impact for me, anyways. And I've been wrong before, just today.
I guess the point I'm hitting on is that there's just like there's potentially a wide window of time, a timeline. There's also a wide array of numbers of individuals, and I don't like that. I don't like such a wild number spread,
Hey,
between
Don.
the people at the drop-off and the people in the search. It's like, well, those things seem like they should have been clear pretty early on, and like a general consensus how many approximately people, but it's
Okay,
just
so let's move past that part, and
Right.
and just real quick. Hey, Don, how are you? And Deja Vu, no, I don't believe Ellie is perfect. Absolutely not. If they were, we wouldn't be discussing this case. It would have been solved already. I'm not saying that Ellie's perfect. I'm just saying that when you do the same shit over and over and over and over and over again, two things happen. You become wise, but then at the same moment, you also become complacent. And that's what happens with law enforcement. That's why they get hurt and killed, because they get complacent. But okay, let's move past that. The girls, so you're saying, we go back to when they were last seen by somebody that's not involved with the case, and when they get dropped off. Now, we know because of the Hoosier Harvest Store camera what time she drove past it. Now, that does not mean that she didn't drop the girls off and sit there for a half hour while the girls walked away, by any stretch. So we don't know exactly what time she got there. But if we take what time the Hoosier Harvest Store camera saw her driving away, take it from there.
Well, that's difficult too.
Of course it is.
We don't know all we know about what is said about that camera is that it witnessed the vehicle passing by. We don't know the fidelity of that video or the angle of what it captured. Like, did it capture the individuals in that vehicle, or did it just capture the vehicle? How clear? You're thinking back how long ago that was. The
Okay, so
security
even
cameras were not the best. It was potentially an older. We don't know how old that security camera was. So even in that, it wasn't HD video in 2017 on that camera, and that camera might have been 5 or 10 years old. We don't, I don't know the approximate age of the camera on the building, but
I haven't seen one image from that camera either. Have you? I haven't seen one video or image from it.
No, but I'm saying that. Okay, clearly law enforcement has. Okay, so they know exactly what's on that video. They know if they see Kelsey in the car. They know if they see.
If they indeed can make out who's in the vehicle.
Yeah, they might see 3 individuals in the vehicle, which should have been.
Right.
So depending on what that video shows, so I'm not stupid enough to, not to call anyone stupid, but I'm saying on the facts that I believe.
Are you calling me stupid?
I'm going back. Let's agree on the facts. The facts are that regarding that video, it shows the vehicle passing. That's the most we can say.
That's what law enforcement says. Right.
Yeah, we can't say that Kelsey's driving the vehicle.
Right, correct.
So all of that is assumption, and we can't say the girls were in the vehicle. All we can say is that the vehicle drove by, and I would assume, hopefully, they got the license plate or her face to be able to confirm it wasn't a similar vehicle. It was literally her vehicle. So, that even that's unknown to the public.
Okay.
So I don't
Okay.
take it for granted. I just say, yeah, the vehicle passed at that time.
All right.
That's confirmed.
Now you read the PCA, right?
Yes.
Now the PCA says that Richard Allen, his vehicle was seen driving past the Hoosier Heartland camera on its way to the CPS building. Do you believe that?
I don't know, because I have questions about that vehicle in general. Allegedly, that was parked at that CPS building. I'm extremely.
Now he admits to parking there. You do know that?
I don't
right?
know, but I don't know. Did he admit to parking there at that time at that place?
Dude, good point. Because he admitted that. Well, no, because he restated that when he was interviewed in October of last year. So yes, he said that, but he thought it was the old Farm Bureau building. But they surmised, and he said, yeah, that was the building. It was the CPS, the old CPS building. So he's saying that he was there and that he did park there. Okay,
Well,
so let's get back to that Hoosier Heartland camera. Do you believe that, because this is all pertinent, this is actually pertinent. How many kids were at the entrance is not pertinent. This is pertinent. This is hard, direct evidence, not indirect evidence, not maybe could be. No, direct evidence. CCTV camera has gotten people the death penalty more than once. Okay, so that's direct evidence. So, and that's what ties it together. Richard Allen says, yes, he was there. Yes, he was driving a black Ford Focus. And they see the Ford Focus heading north on 300 at approximately the time that he said that he was going to that building. So do you believe that?
Well, let's talk about that. The whole scenario with the.
Are you deflecting?
CPS.
Are you trying to deflect my attention from what I just said?
I'm trying to reverse engineer it, because I think this. Okay, let's start with the point. CPS building vehicles.
Okay.
Okay. Many different witness accounts and allegations about those. So potentially two. Okay, first of all.
Eyewitnesses suck. There was 3 different vehicles that 3 different people saw describing the same vehicle.
All right, so anyway, potentially more than one, but here's what really gets my goat about that whole thing. And I brought this up to you, and I'll qualify it with this. I don't know this to be a cold-hearted fact, but this is the deal. The first thing that rings my alarm bells about that incident is that one of the witnesses described the vehicle as a purple PT Cruiser. Okay,
right.
One of them.
Right. That's
Allegedly, Keegan Klein's grandma had a purple PT Cruiser.
At that time?
At that time.
Allegedly.
That's extremely bothersome to me. More than Richard Allen's fucking Ford Focus, and looks nothing like a PT Cruiser. So in my mind, that's a red flag. It's like, what are the odds?
Okay,
for grandma
again,
to have a PT Cruiser, period. Much less a purple one.
I agree with you. Okay, on the surface, Prof, I agree with you 100%. We're talking about eyewitnesses that are not reliable. They're hardly ever used in trial. Those people will not be called to testify just because of that simple fact. I mean, you had 3 juvenile females that described the same person in 3 different ways. They're just unreliable.
Wait. In your mind, because in my mind, I go with maybe they're describing 2 different people, because I see 2 different descriptions. I see a guy in black, and then I see a bridge guy. Mm-hmm. So in my mind, they might be describing the same person, but being that it's two different descriptions, I have to allow the possibility that they're describing two different individuals dressed differently. But
All right, let me
how
ask you
can I
this.
know?
Do you think
Yeah.
the prosecution would call those three juveniles up onto the stand and have them describe what they saw?
No, no, but I'm not talking about the prosecution really. I'm more so getting to like what are the interesting factoids and like I said, this is speculative. That's why I wanted to go back before we talk about the Heartland video. Is the most insane red flag to me is the purple PT Cruiser and allegedly Keegan Klein's grandma having that exact vehicle. That's a huge red flag that put on the radar. And then the other thing is two vehicles potentially, and then the other thing is Heartland video and Richard Allen's vehicle. So there's a whole mishmash. Plus, there's accounts of Kelsey describing other vehicles at the Mears location. So
right. Now let me just
of vehicles
real quick. Let
involved.
me address something from the chat. Terry, yeah, witnesses are used all the time. What I'm saying is they're not reliable at all. Hey, Frank, they're not reliable at all. They get their ass tore up during cross-examination all the time. Yes, they do use witnesses all the time. And they also get their ass handed to them during cross-examination. A good case is going to be with the Idaho 4. If they use Dylan as a witness, she's not going to be able to survive cross-examination. They're going to rip her to shreds. They'd be smart not to use her at all. And there's an eyewitness. That's an eyewitness. And that's all I'm saying. These people that said, one of them says they saw this vehicle, one said that vehicle. Hey, Deb. One says that vehicle. And they're all talking about the same vehicle. Now, imagine, if you will, they're all talking about the same vehicle. Those three juveniles, they're all talking about the same person. Now, could it be two people? Some people have introduced that fact that they could have been talking about two different people. But it just does not, the facts don't lean that way. When you take the other woman who parked at the Mears lot and went for a walk and also seen a gentleman wearing the same clothing. So
yeah, but I look at that as they could, potentials. Okay, so the potentials are two of the witnesses are describing rich guy, dressed individual, and one of the individuals is describing a guy dressed in black who may be another individual, but maybe they could all be describing the same individual. So for me, it's just it's sort of a two-way street. It's like maybe one, maybe two. Same with the vehicles. Maybe one, maybe two.
Right.
But it's not 5 or 10. And it's not only specifically, it's not unanimous. Only one description of only one, blah, blah, blah. So there's a little leeway in that. It's like with the vehicles and the individuals, maybe one, maybe two, sort of, and like you say, with the eyewitness discrepancies and potential to misremember, it's some fuzziness in that. But, at least it's not like the number of people there or the dates and time. It's a little more solid than a lot of the other facts, in my mind, quote unquote facts.
No, dude, and that could be correct. I am not saying you are incorrect. I'm saying that, to me, logically, being from a law enforcement background, okay, it happens all the time. I've seen it happen all the time. And that's why, to me, it's hard to explain to someone that hasn't been through this over and over and over and over again. It's like the PC. Dude, I had 50 to 100 PCs in my hand, actual PCs, a day when I worked in booking. So I understand how they work and what the judges are looking for and all that. And I understand how they're used just to execute an arrest. That doesn't mean that that's the preponderance of the evidence. It's just enough to make the arrest or to execute a search warrant. But
Exactly.
But you have to take some things, Prof, at face value. Okay? If Richard Allen parked his car and walked past those juveniles and there is not a second person dressed in black involved, And if he walked down the bridge and was standing on the bridge, and that woman who was going for a walk saw him, and if he walked back, sat down on the bench, and then walked back to his car and left, right? How many people were there? Nobody saw him after the time he was standing on the bridge. Do we believe that? Because if we want to really jump into the rabbit hole and question whether or not that Richard Allen is even bridge guy, then we have to say, okay, well, yeah, then he went back and sat on the bench, but he never saw the girls. How is that even possible? Right?
I don't
So
know.
a
That's
lot
what
of
the
people
defense,
don't believe
I
that.
have a feeling that's where the defense is, kind of leaning, is saying is that sort of scenario. And, I don't know.
Yeah, dude, there's so much, and that's why I enjoy talking to you so much, dude, because we always get to this point, and then we come back to a middle ground and we start over again. We're like that dog and the and the wolf on the cartoons. Morning, Frank. The dog's protecting the sheep and the wolf's trying to get the sheep, and we fight all day, and then at the end of the day, see you tomorrow.
See, I don't think Richard Allen has to be bridge guy to be involved. I don't think Richard Allen has to have his vehicle be mistaken for a PT Cruiser to be involved. So I want to get that straight right now. Is I'm not saying that any of this is exculpatory towards Richard Allen.
Well, you bring in Keegan Kline and Tony Kline into it by mentioning the PT
because
Cruiser.
I'm just saying that it
either that or Keegan's grandmother. Are you saying she was parked there?
Exactly, and she went do all that. Yeah. I mean, it's just it's sort of all equally kind of. There's a lot that brings Keegan into it,
Dude, you know how I feel about that. Keegan is involved.
Keegan and Tony are brought into it, and Richard Allen is brought into it, and he put himself into it initially. So, I mean, overall, I'm not going to use assumptions to attack those individuals, but I'll say that it's highly logical why they are all three brought into this at this point. Is they're kind of all brought into it.
But see, we left facts behind about a half hour ago.
Because the Keegan's grandma the Keegan's grandma vehicle, I don't know that to be a fact. That's just what I've seen. Okay, right. So that's speculation on my part, but surely someone could confirm or deny that.
Well, somebody in chat said that she had sold that vehicle prior to any of this taking place.
What are the facts of that, though? How did they get that? And where's the paperwork
Don't know.
Yeah, see, for me, it's up in the air. If there's absolute proof that she sold that vehicle and didn't have it at that time, then I'll accept that if you show me the fact.
But to me, this whole conversation is worthless because at first they put that information out trying to find something out. Well, then he put himself there. He said that he was the one parked at the CPS building. He said that he was at the trail.
Who is he? I got a little lost.
Okay. Who else said that they were at the CPS building in the trails that day? Who admitted to be there? Who put themselves at the crime scene?
Oh, Richard Allen did.
Right.
And there seems to be some rumor, or I haven't been thoroughly convinced of where it came from, but that Keegan Kline put himself there. So I don't know about
Did
that.
he?
So
Did he?
I don't know.
I know he's involved. I don't think he's involved. He created the Anthony Schatz account.
I also heard it was bullshit. Because there was this thing that Keegan was there in a red Jeep, but then I've seen that seems to be bullshit that was put out. But I don't know. But if Keegan did put himself as supposed to have been there or was going to be there.
Well, then how does Keegan connect to Richard Allen then? That's the key to this whole
Well,
thing.
that's all speculation. Yeah, I don't know, because then we start bringing in these other things that we can't see. Like, we've gone into speculation now, which I don't. I'm willing to go into, as long as I, announce that first, that this is wild speculation, but it's gone from logic that
Well, logic says Keenan's involved.
Keegan, yeah, because Keegan being questioned and the charges dropped and the timing of it and the river search and the Doug Carter in a helicopter and all of that. Yeah, it does tie Keegan in very suspiciously if all of that is accurate. But it's also like that transcript of the interview, which we also have not been convinced that it's legitimate. Correct. Completely. So correct. I'm not going to use that against Keegan Kline until I'm proven that all of those things are facts. But I'm willing to talk about it.
It probably is legit, Prof. But if it is, the detectives didn't do a very good job. They basically turned over their hand. But my concern is just the way that it was obtained. That's all. Yeah.
So if all of that is legit, it's looking super bad for the Klines and Richard Allen.
Sure.
And so why not be on the radar right now? Because obviously that's why they're on the radar. But right. Here's where I go also. There's some other shit on the radar too. And that's also speculative. Yeah. But he ain't the only one on the radar.
Right. No, dude, I agree. But here's my thing. Keegan Kline is involved. Okay, there's no doubt he's involved. Richard Allen is involved. And this is just me saying there's no doubt that Richard Allen is involved. Now, what ties them two together? Okay, because it's my thinking that Richard Allen was at the bridge that day and at that time due to the fact that Anthony Schatz was communicating with one or two of the two girls. I don't know which one. Law enforcement knows, though. They've got all the digital forensics figured out right now as we speak. They've had it for a long time. So they know who. But somebody had to communicate with Richard Allen, or Richard Allen had to have been logged on to the Anthony Schatz account to know what was going on. Right? There's no way that he was just there and it's just, some random chance that he had happened to be there, and that random chance that he had the tools that he needed to commit this crime, that, he walks around with those things in his pocket all the time. We don't know. We don't know how they were subdued, if they were handcuffed, if they were duct tape, zip tied. We don't know any of that yet. We don't know anything about the crime scene. We don't know time of death, cause of death, manner of death, none of that. We don't know if they were sexually assaulted or not.
With all of that, though, I put into the speculation bucket as the generally accepted speculative narrative, because we
say that 10 times fast.
Exactly. I can't even say it again. But we're assuming all of this data to be legitimate. And so where I agree with you is, yes, detectives know for fucking sure. Okay. Now, what we know, I go back to the central facts I can absolutely confirm. And unfortunately, anything that this murder sheet has released, a lot of that, the sniff test is that potentially factual, but because it did not come directly from the source, there's also a potential that it's not completely factual. So I'm not going to base any of my narrative of fact on the Keegan Kline interview or those elements that tie all that shit together. I'm not basing it on that. But I would say that if those things are, then yeah, this is the central narrative we're talking about, that Richard Allen, blah, blah, blah. He was part of Keegan's, exploitation of these girls, and he arranged to meet the blah, 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 blah. That whole narrative, it's all logical. And if those things are true, then it stems from it all makes a particularly sensible narrative. But because those are not facts to me, they're outliers. If we get confirmation that Keegan Klein interview is completely legitimate, and if we get confirmation that the Ron Logan search warrant is completely legitimate, I'll accept those things then. But now I have to put them as likely, but not solid. And that's in my camp. That's where I say, like, I want to separate the facts. So if they're factual, this narrative you're saying is, it's the most logical thing. But I would still have this suspicion that others are involved. Maybe even more so because of all of that.
Oh, sure. Sure, absolutely others are involved. There has to be others involved. Law enforcement has even said he was not the only actor. Now, they could be talking about Keegan, who's in jail. He's not going anywhere. So they don't really have to discuss him too much, do they? And they deflect a little bit whenever they're asked about him. But let me just address something that was in the chat here a minute ago real quick. When Richard Allen got arrested, okay, he went to first appearance advisories. They asked him if he could afford an attorney. He said yes, okay, but he pled not guilty. Well, then he figured out that he can't afford an attorney, so he asked to be appointed one. Well, he got appointed 2 attorneys that have death penalty case experience, because that could come on the table with this. And I'm here to tell you that they're just going to use that death penalty as leverage, okay, for Richard Allen. The way they charged him with felony murder, okay, with the aggravating factor being kidnapping. So they just need to prove that because he kidnapped those girls that they were murdered. So it's a little bit different than saying he murdered them. So it's a whole different thing. Now, his attorneys, they were doing some good lawyering right off the bat as soon as the PCA. Now, they had already seen the PCA, but when it got released, they were able to talk about it. And they said it was kind of weak. And they're right. There's enough there to get him arrested. We don't know what they took out of Richard Allen's house during that search warrant. We don't know what they found in his vehicle. Okay, we don't know what. And the Wabash search does tie into this. Listen, Keegan Klein did not need to be signed out of jail and turned over to ISP for a day to cooperate with something else they're working on. He can do that from the jail cell. He does not need to go on a field trip. So he's involved with that search at the Wabash. 5 weeks they searched the Wabash. As soon as they finished that, all of a sudden they got a search warrant for Richard Allen's house. So none of that is a coincidence. None of that. Just let me just finish this thought real quick, Prof.
Yeah, go ahead.
So then the defense attorneys for Richard Allen, they did some good lawyering. They want to have a bond hearing, because in Indiana, if you're charged with felony murder, you got zero bond, right? Zero bond. There's no way around it. You can't even have a bond hearing. So the only way they could have a bond hearing is by saying that PCA is weak. It does not prove that he murdered anybody. So he needs not to be charged with murder. So he should have a bond, or, get this, be released on his own recognizance. Well, in Indiana, during that bond hearing, the prosecution has to release a preponderance of the evidence. So the defense attorneys, that's them doing some posturing. And they want to know what the state knows. Okay, they know what they took out of Richard Allen's house, but that's all they know, and what was in the PCA. There's not a whole shitload in the PCA. I'm sure we all agree with that. That's pretty weak, but that's not all they have. That was just enough to get him arrested. All right, so they want to have this bond hearing so that they can find out what the state has, okay, which could be posturing, and probably is posturing, for a plea deal. They want to see what they have and what they need. Do you follow me? So they get that. Richard Allen has not waived his right to a speedy trial this whole time. So his trial is still scheduled for March. Well, his attorneys just asked to put it off because they haven't received all the information from the state. They haven't received disclosure yet. They haven't got all of that information. So the state is trying to hustle and get all this done because he has not waived his right for a speedy trial. They need to prepare for a trial in March. So the defense attorneys are doing a great job. They're doing some good lawyering so that they can get all this information as fast as possible so that they can start working on a plea deal. Okay. Keegan Klein's already working on a plea deal. His lawyer already said it. You don't have to understand law to know what he's looking at different avenues through different law strategies right now. He's making a plea deal. So the next big thing that we're going to hear out of this case is Keegan Klein has already rolled on Richard Allen. He's already done that. But we're going to hear that Richard Allen is going to take a plea deal and he's going to roll on anybody else that's involved with this case. Mark my words, that's what's going to happen. That's what all this posturing that's going on. I've seen it happen before firsthand. So it's not like I'm just coming up with some bullshit off the wall thing. You know, I've seen all the court paperwork and the PCs and all that, search warrants and evidence gathering and stuff like that. That's the only thing that could really hurt this case is the way they took the evidence out of Richard Allen's house. There was no chain of custody. They weren't taken out in the proper receptacles. None of that. So to me, that was baffling how they took that evidence. But law enforcement knows all of this. They know all of the digital forensic data. They know all of that. They have all of the physical evidence. They know Richard Allen's tied to this case. They definitely would not arrest somebody and charge them with felony murder in a big, huge case like this. And they would not keep mentioning Keegan Klein if he wasn't involved and the Anthony shots. So it's getting wrapped up in a neat little bow, and you watch. Richard Allen's going to roll. There's no doubt about it. In my mind, no doubt about it whatsoever. Okay, go ahead. I just wanted to throw that out there because there was a few things in chat where people were asking. I just want everybody to know.
Oh yeah, and I can't wait. I agree with all of that, and I can't wait for him to roll. But I would say this. I also have a further theory that he doesn't need to roll, you know, because my theory is that potentially the strategy in this could be that all they have to do is get into court and have everything roll, you know, like not, and I don't mean roll, bad choice of words, have everything start and go forward, because then in the court of law, sworn evidence will be received from witnesses and the defense and whatever other evidence is presented against Richard Allen. So all of this will be produced in court. Potentially something that comes out of that, so something coming out of the case against Allen can provide evidence needed to pursue other individuals that at this point in time, there's not the proper evidence to pursue them with a prosecution. So that's my hope as well.
So you think they have other POIs, they just don't have the missing evidence to bring them into the case?
Oh yeah, but that's my opinion. My opinion is they're so much further ahead of this than we are, because I think they got them in at least one or more. They got them lined up, and they may be in a corner with being able to successfully prosecute. So what would a smart person do? A smart person would wait until they can get that evidence, and perhaps the court of law is where they're going to get some to go after these others potentially. But
well, at this point right now, if it went to trial right now, unfortunately, Prof, facts don't mean anything anymore. The facts of the case mean zero. Now it's all about smoke and mirrors and deception and sleight of hand and stuff like that through the attorneys to try and find one person in the jury to get reasonable doubt in their head. So I mean, look at the Casey Anthony, OJ.
I get that, and they only got one shot,
right?
But like I'm saying, my hopes, you know, so like you know, I'm sort of I'm a spiritual man. I'm Christian, and just the way I lean on, you know, higher power is to say, look, please if anything come of this, let the net gather more up, because I can't fathom. I mean, I give it the 1% chance that it's only Richard Allen involved, and it's said and done. But I have this suspicion that there's at least one or more involved, and I would hope, other than Richard Allen, and I would hope that if anything comes of this, that God provides further disclosure to be and evidence to be able to go after these others. But what I was going to say about what you said about the charges is very interesting to me. I think they're brilliant in the charges that include kidnapping, because I think this, in my mind, all they have to show at this bond hearing for a preponderance of evidence is that he kidnapped the girls.
You're right. That's all they have to show.
So what if there is evidence on the phone that, like, think about it. If the audio that says guys down the hill, if that is the moment he kidnaps them and he's on the phone, and if they can use that, if they have more from that, if they have video in coordination with that, whatever they have, if they present that at the bond hearing to say, look, he kidnapped the girls, here's the proof. Well, then it's done. He's done. There's no bond. The preponderance of evidence has been met. They charged him with the kidnapping, not only as an aggravating factor, but maybe, in my mind, what if that's all they got? So in other words, what if all they got is dead girls, and they got evidence of Bridge Guy of Richard Allen or Bridge Guy kidnapping the girls? And if they say, look, here's the proof, it's on video and audio, the moment he kidnaps the girls, well, then he's down for murder. So it's brilliant, I think, from a prosecutorial standpoint. If that's all you got, you still get the guy. Right.
Yeah. Well, that's why I say now, and listen, man, Indiana has the death penalty. Since 1972, they have executed, I think, 7 people, and none since 1993. I think 1990 was a banner year. They actually executed 2 people. I live in Florida, man, where they have an express lane. Somebody kills 2 girls, they're going in front of everybody else. They're not going to stay on death row for 12 years. They're going to make sure that SOB gets killed too sweet. But they're using that just as leverage with Richard Allen. But the way they charged him, right, is, now I don't understand Indiana state law, but, I understand law in general. But the way they charged him almost implies that there's other people involved. Because, and hear me out, back in my day, I know things have changed a little bit. I retired in 2008. But back in my day, they would charge him with more than that. They would have got him with felony murder, with the aggravating factor of kidnapping, also with murder, also with kidnapping. And I'm telling you, dude, they would have thrown in, if that was his bullet, they would have got him for fucking littering as well. They would throw as much shit at him as they could. So it just surprises me that they just charged him with this 2 counts of murder with an aggravating factor of kidnapping. So that tells me that there are more people involved. There's more charges that need to wrap around this thing that would make sense to the girls both being abducted and being murdered, and what happened in between. I think they're addressing that as well. What happened in between? We can only speculate. They haven't given us anything, and they should not. Law enforcement is doing a fantastic job keeping information close to the hip. They don't give a shit that Ruckus Rocks, the podcaster, wants to know more so that I can share it with my subscribers. They don't give a shit about that, and they shouldn't, and they're doing a great job of it. But, I'm glad that we can have conversations like this and disagree without arguing and have a good time doing it. But we'll find out more, and you know that. We've talked before, Prof. We'll find out more as more information gets released. We'll be able to, our speculations will get smaller and smaller until we can put it together. It's going to be interesting, though, to see who was going in the right direction and who wasn't. I don't care if I'm right. I'm worried about justice for these two little girls. That's what I'm worried about. It's not. I don't have an ego when it comes to this kind of stuff. It's a disgusting state of affairs what human beings will do to other human beings. And today is the 6th anniversary of these two little sweet girls passing. And so it's kind of ironic that we're having a discussion. I didn't plan this. I didn't even think about it on this day that we're having a discussion like this. And to me, we're doing them honor by still keeping them at the forefront. We're still talking about them. We still care about them getting justice. Do you follow me?
Yeah, that's all. And that's all I care about is like I said, I know it's a hard line, but all I care about is those two girls receiving justice by things coming to light of day. And that's whoever gets caught up in that net, I have no fucks given. I mean,
yeah, zero.
All I care is those two. I'm not trying to preserve anyone's feelings or, fuck all that. Excuse the language. I'm going to try to control it, but I'm going to.
You're a potty mouth. You don't hear me talking like that, do you?
I think it's brilliant. I mean, I just want to go back to this. It makes you think. Because I read the definition of the charges and the statutes, and I'm telling you, if all they have is proof that he forced the girls, like you mentioned before, it could be a 1 foot away out of what they were going to do. If you force those girls to move in a direction against their will, and that's all you got, and not only that, if you got it on a recording, all you have to prove is the kidnapping, and you're done. You're so now, even if he didn't murder the girls, he gets the murder. And not only that, that's why I'm led to believe he's the first domino. He's the first domino. If they got him on tape kidnapping the girls and the girls end up dead, well, he could be the first domino.
I think Keegan was the first domino. He's locked up. He's not going anywhere, so they don't have to worry about him.
Broadly, yes. Yeah, he ain't going nowhere. And, and we spoke last time, and I'm not going to, by name, mention any individuals, but I think there are more individuals in custody already who... I think there are more individuals already in the system, and they may have already been turned CIs or rolled or whatever you want to call it. So we don't know that part of it because Keegan's not the only one in custody. So we got Keegan, we got Richard Allen, and we got potentially a few others that are already in the system who are not going anywhere. So, that's all kind of on the positive.
There may be some people that are in prison serving sentences on unrelated charges that are involved with this, that have been in prison for 3 years or so. That's not unheard of either, Prof. I'm not saying that's the case, but there could be. There could well be.
Well, and I've spent a lot of time lately. Man, if you deep dive, it's really an ugly sight. It's sort of like an exposure of the underbelly of society. But if you do this Delphi deep dive, you start coming across a whole bunch of underbelly individuals all tied up in the meth trade and the sex clubs. And, that whole underbelly of society there, it seems thick. And it seems to be tied into this. That's where I'm ultimately led to, is there's this underbelly element, and I think a few of them are in custody. Maybe a couple are dead now. So I don't think it's all we got is Keegan and Richard Allen.
I hope we get to find out. Because if Richard Allen rolls and takes a plea deal, he can take that shit to his deathbed. Just like the Golden State Killer. He pled out to that shit, so we're never going to find out the truth. He's going to die knowing the truth. We're lucky with BTK that he wanted to brag about his shit, Otherwise, we wouldn't know any of that because he took a plea deal as well. Yeah, Judge Faust, he was part of that, That
Sex
club.
clubs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude,
You know what
unbelievable. Unfucking real. The balls that these people have, they think that their position makes them untouchable. That's what's scary. That's what's scary.
And it's all over. It's all over, and even in the international politics. I mean, on every level of society, you have those elites that they got more money than they know what to do with, so that their addictions, you know,
And they're above the
can't-
law for the most part.
right. And if you can't feed the addiction, it controls you. You know, I mean, if you can feed the addiction because you have deep pockets, you can downward spiral into this stuff, and that's, I think, why people with money, you know, they often have the ability to get into deeper ruts with those addictions.
Sure. Yeah. Well, they can afford to. Yeah. It's like, you know, the Betty Ford clinic cost $20,000. If I'm a heroin addict and I have $20,000, I don't have a fucking problem yet, do I? You know, so that shit's made for the rich. That's not made for the average person, you know? So
Yeah, there was something I was gonna say, and it just slipped my mind because we got into this.
Dude.
And it's that underbelly aspect. You know, I think that's the difficulty in this. Oh, what I was gonna say is, I guarantee you. Let me ask you this way: do you think Doug Carter knows everything?
Yes. He
Yeah, me
knows
too.
everything that they have.
I think he can't sleep at night.
He cannot sleep at night. He's a good guy.
It's tearing him up because he knows the whole web, and it's effing him up at night because it would kill me to know, but then to not be able to touch people. But, you know, I think Doug Carter, he's got time on his side. So you see, time.
When you know the truth and you have facts, it is just a matter of time. Because it's like you said before, you only get one shot, Prof. You got to cross your T's, dot your I's, because if they get hung jury or anything like that, they walk. There's no double jeopardy. But, you know, I lived it. I used to explain to people that there's a whole nother society out there that you're not aware of. Well, you're asleep. There's people out there that would shoot you in the face just walking by you for no reason. And it would make you not sleep. If you could see these fucking people, they're out there. They're out there, man.
Well, let me bring my part of my physics understanding.
Don't go over my head, though. Don't give me anything too deep.
It's easy.
I watch Big Bang Theory, so I understand a little bit.
I really believe this is that, you know, time. Doug Carter has time on his side, and time is the greatest source of energy in the universe, you know. So in the physics that I work on, time is the driving force of everything. You know, if you take the time dimension away, there's no reality, there's no energy, there's no existence. Everything is dependent upon time, because time is the engine of the universe. And so if you know that, you can use time as a fuel. You use time as an energy source. And then I think that's where, you know, common folk can also understand that's why I think that time reveals all. You know, it's like in every level, time is what your source of energy is, and if you can use that to your advantage, you win. And I think that I see that because of this predicament, Doug Carter seems to be smart enough and good enough to use time as his currency, because like everything, we want it right now, but the wise man and the person who wants to really access a great amount of energy and wealth that he doesn't have at the moment, you know, has to use time to achieve that end. And I think that, you know, when I look at Doug Carter, I kind of sympathize hardcore, because I see that, yeah, I know that predicament. You've got the solution, okay? But the difficulty is you have to use time to achieve it. And it takes patience and pain. It takes a lot. because you're using time, which is no man can change the pacing of time. You can't speed or slow down time. So Doug Carter can't make things go faster with time. He just has to use time. And I think he's willing to, because he seems passionate, and he's clearly said, I'm going to my deathbed with this. So that means to me, he's committed for life. And it's going to take that. I think anybody, if you're facing an obstacle like this, you have to have somebody like that. They have to have that wisdom and the passion to say, look, I'm going to my deathbed on this. So, do I know Doug Carter? No. But I get this gut feeling that, I have some compassion for him, because I think he's in a corner, and only solution is time. So that's my hope, with this.
Yeah, dude, something's got to give. And I'm banking on law enforcement knows everything they need to know. It's just a matter of, like I said, crossing their T's and dotting their I's. I mean, it's important to do that stuff. And I know that we're all anxious to find out more because of these girls. We all want justice for these girls, but it's not, they're not obligated to share with us, law enforcement. They are not. They have to put out certain things so that we can police the police, basically. But as far as an active investigation, I don't blame them for not releasing some information, and I know you don't either. You're pretty intelligent, but you have to, I don't know, you have to reel in emotion once in a while and just look at what's really going on, But listen, we've been going for almost 2 hours and 15 minutes.
And this is the active, just to finish up, it's active. At this very moment, active investigation. So, hey.
Yep, absolutely. I agree. But if you want to, I tried to put your Discord link in. If you want to throw it in the chat real quick, that would be most helpful. Prof has his own Discord channel, and he puts some really interesting things on there, and it'll give you a chance to reach out to him and speak with him.
I tell you what, can you share it from your Discord? Because I'll explain, if you try to do that, I'll explain what's there, because this is basically what I've done there.
I tried to, that's what I'm saying, and end up sharing mine, it looks like. Let me see. Let me try again. I'm not too bright, dude.
What I want what I like people to do there, basically, I've established this file cabinet, sort of. And basically, I throw all sorts of creators' videos up there that I feel have pertinent points about specific little things. And, so there's going to be tons of videos there. And not every video I agree with every single thing in, but every one I want quickly at my disposal for little things. And so in that Discord, I just have a ton of videos lined up that some people may be interested in just going over them,
Right. Okay. Well, I think actually, I think that link that I put in actually is your Discord. If you want to click on it, we could tell real quick to see which one pops up.
Oh, let's see. Yeah, and it's called
Reality TP.
Oh yeah, it's there.
Okay.
If you go and look at the hashtag called True Crime, that's where that file cabinet is. I have all those videos in a hashtag called True Crime.
Yeah, he's got some good stuff there. But all right, well, that's all that I have. I just want to reach out and talk with you. Dude, we have a lot more to talk about, so if you wanted to come back, I'm going to have, I don't know if you guys know who Charlie Greer is, but he is a national treasure. He's also one of my favorite people. I was hesitant to put Charlie and the Prof together because they're both the same. They think the same. To me, I call them conspiracy theorists, but that's not the case. I'm just, using a blanket term. I hardly agree with Charlie when it comes to this stuff at all either, but he's a good buddy as well. So I'm going to have Charlie on, and also a young man from England. He used to be the crime bloke, but now he's United Kings. He rebranded his channel. But I'm going to have him on as well. He's a good kid, and he's got some good insights as well. So I'm trying to line up other people that I can bring on and talk to like this. If you guys like this kind of format, let me know. And I'll get some more people lined up. And we'll see if we can't get some good shows going. Nobody's going to change my mind, though, so don't hold your breath about that. But that doesn't mean I can't have them on and be an unbiased and gracious host. I'm absolutely going to do my best to do that, because that's what we're all here for. We're all here to find out things and to share our own beliefs, you know. But Prof, I appreciate you coming on. This has been awesome, and I'd love to have you back so we can finish up. We haven't even really scratched the surface when it comes to the crime itself.
Oh yeah, and Charlie. What I'll say about Charlie is, Charlie and I think we agree on a lot. Just like you and I agree on a lot of points. Charlie and I agree on a lot of points, and Charlie cares, just like we do. And that, I think everyone's heart. What I've noticed, and when I was talking about the other creators on YouTube, 90% their hearts are in the right place.
Yeah.
It's just the logic, and the discrimination is not necessarily in the right places. So I think like slowing down and anchoring on to the bare minimal facts. That's a good, it's a good thing that if we can all agree on the bare facts.
Yep.
Well, then we can all, because it's gonna. We're all there. A lot of us are trying.
We're all trying. I think everybody is.
The more we agree on those fundamentals, at least we know that. And Charlie, I love talking to Charlie about it, because he, like I said, him and I, we're more on the creative side, but it's just,
dude, I would be afraid to have you two on together. I would have to leave. I would just have to leave. Say fuck this.
Leave, smoke, drink. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd start smoking again. But no, honestly, I could do a show with both of you on it. I think that would be kind of cool. That would be really
awesome.
Cool, And guys, honestly, Prof is thinking about doing this himself as well. He's given it some serious thought. I try to encourage him to do it because he has some great insight about other things. So, show him some love too. If you go on his Discord, tell him what you think. I would love to see him do this. I would certainly subscribe and watch him. I might even hit the notification bell. How do you like that, Prof?
Thanks.
Yeah. But all right, I appreciate it, Prof. I'm gonna hit the outro now. Guys, thanks for showing up. I appreciate it, and I'm gonna turn it over to Prof so that he can thank you guys and say goodbye.
Yeah, thanks everyone, and hit me in the Discord if you have any questions. I'm sorry if I missed anything in the chat. I can't even watch the chat while we talk. But thank you.
It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Have a great day, and I'll be on probably again Wednesday with a different guest, and then I'll bring Prof back on as well. We'll get him finished up. All right. So you guys have a great day, and we'll talk to you later. My name is Ruckus, and I am 10-7. Have a great day. Great